This is it. Spotify finally published their new royalty rules for 2024. Let's take a look. Hey, it's John here at Hyped It, and in this video I want to dive deep into Spotify's new royalty rules for 2024. A couple days ago I posted a video here on YouTube about all the upcoming changes for Spotify that were announced for 2024. The good, the bad, the ugly. I recommend you check out this video so you have all the context that you need in order to make sure you get the most out of Spotify next year. I'm going to leave a link above here for you to check out this video. But what I want to do here is I want to dive deep into the new royalty rules that Spotify just publicly announced. So we went from just having rumors out a couple weeks ago to now having absolute certainty about what's going to happen. And it is very important for every music artist, especially independent music artists like us, to understand exactly what's going on. So let's hop over to my screen here and I'll walk you through it step by step. The best place to get the latest scoop on Spotify's changes to the royalty model are on Spotify's own website now. And this is what I'm looking at here, and I want to walk you through some of the key aspects of those new royalty changes. Starting with what the actual streaming threshold is. And Spotify here now confirms the streaming threshold is 1,000 streams in the previous 12 months. Spotify will only pay royalties to tracks that meet that threshold, get over 1,000 streams over the previous 12 months. Now that matches what I shared in my previous video about Spotify's updates, but now we have even more information here. So let's dive right in. First of all, here Spotify answers the question of how much more money will be paid out to emerging and professional artists as a result of the change. If you remember what's going on here, Spotify basically says that the tracks that they demonetize, they're not keeping the money, they're adding it back to the royalty pool. And that means for those tracks that are being monetized, there should be more money available. And Spotify now quantifies this and says it is a 0.5% increase in royalties that is anticipated to be paid for tracks that are monetized. So in other words, if, let's say, Spotify pays you $1,000 in royalties in a year, now that goes up by 0.5%. So instead of $1,000, you will earn $1,005 in royalties. Now, my personal take on this, that is negligible. That is so little money, especially with inflation right now, that I'd rather not have the headache of figuring out whether my tracks meet 1,000 streams or not and be okay with earning $5 less on $1,000 in royalties. But my hunch is here that this policy will disproportionately benefit the major labels and the bigger artists. And for them, it's obviously not just going to be $5. It's going to be much bigger numbers that are more material. But so if your tracks are over 1,000 streams in a year, get excited about the 0.5% increase that you're getting in royalties. Hey, did that come across that was cynical? All right, next up is this question here. Does this change impact publishing royalties? And the answer here is no. That means publishing royalties are going to be paid from the first stream. And to be honest, I don't think there is an option. That's just the law. But it does mean that as independent music artists, no matter how many streams we get on our tracks, there is the publishing royalties that we will receive. That is, of course, unless you do all cover versions, which function a little bit differently. But if you make your own music, you will get paid something from the very first stream. Even if it's not something that Spotify pays to you, but that comes to you through your performance rights organizations, but it's still money coming in. Next up, when will the policy go into effect? And they're saying here the aim is to put it in effect in early 2024. So there is no target date yet, but we anticipate it's around the corner. Up next, and this might be one of the most interesting and important points, how will royalties be calculated under this new policy? And there are two really important points here that I want to pay your attention to, which really clarify what is going on. When I shot the last video, it wasn't clear whether the moment you hit 1,000 streams, Spotify would make you eligible to monetize all of your streams, even the first 1,000, or only the streams from the 1,001st stream. And what is happening here is it's a little bit of both. And you might be wondering, John, how can it be a little bit of both? That makes no sense. But here's how it works from Spotify's perspective. Spotify calculates and pays royalties on a monthly basis. So the way Spotify does this now is they're going to monitor how many streams does a track have in the prior 12 months. And in that month, when you hit 1,000 streams for that track, that entire month will be monetized. So for example, and I'm just going to use the numbers that they use here. Let's say you put out a song and in the first month, that song gets 750 streams. In the second month, that song gets 500 streams. So all in, you crossed the 1,000, right? You're now at 1,250 streams at the end of the second month. And because you crossed the 1,000 in that second month, you get paid royalties on all the streams in that second month, which means on 500. So in this particular example, you would end up with 750 streams that would be not monetized, and you would end up with 500 streams that are being monetized. Now, what does that mean for us independent music artists, especially for those of us who promote our own music, which probably includes you because you're watching this video on my channel? It means that you can get all the streams monetized as long as you hit 1,000 streams in your first month. Because if you hit 1,000 streams in month 1 when you release the song, it is then automatically monetized from that first month and you didn't lose out on any of the streams. Now, what's going to be really interesting to see is if that changes the behavior of when artists put out new songs. Spotify does the royalty calculations in the first 2 weeks of any given month. So while I'm not sure I read this anywhere, and I'm not 100% certain, but I'm under the assumption right now that monthly royalties are literally computed from the first day to the last day of the month. So if you want to hit 1,000 streams in your first month to not lose any of the streams, to not be monetizable, then you would make it easy on yourself if you release your songs at the beginning of the month, so that you have, almost up to like 30 days in order to hit 1,000 streams, as opposed to putting out a song in the last week of a month or the last day of a month, when it becomes a lot harder to hit 1,000 streams in that first month of the release. I find this quite fascinating, how Spotify is, creating new rules and how those rules can actually affect the way music artists put out new music. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens here. And with that said, let's move on to the next point here. Can a track go in and out of eligibility? This is an interesting one as well, because Spotify looks at 1,000 streams over the prior 12 months. We just talked about how all of your streams of a song can earn royalty if you cross 1,000 streams in the first month. But in order to have that song earn royalties continuously over its lifetime, you always got to make sure that it receives 1,000 streams over the prior 12 months. So technically, if a song slows down and slows down and slows down and eventually reaches a point where over the prior 12 months, it did not collect 1,000 streams, no matter what the total number of streams on that song are, right? The song could have 100,000 streams, but less than 1,000 came in over the last 12 months. That song is now demonetized. That song will no longer earn royalties and will only start earning royalties again in a month when over the prior 12-month period, it crosses 1,000. So tracks can go in and out of royalty eligibility, which to me is an interesting point. And in a way, it shows that maybe Spotify isn't as concerned with the challenge of micropayments as they said they are as a reason to implement these changes. If they were only that concerned with micropayments, I think it would make more sense to have the streaming threshold apply by artist rather than by track, right? Because an artist could have lots of revenue from lots of small tracks and earn enough money from the distributor so that there wouldn't be any problem with paying them out. And they could have money from tracks accumulate over a long time until it meets that threshold if the track just kept on continuously being monetized. So while I understand what Spotify is saying here, and it seems like those rules are relatively clear, I don't find it that easy to buy into all of this and to buy into the rationale. But let's see what else we have here. Can a user just stream their own songs 1,000 times to become eligible? And they're saying no, which is something that their fraud detection system would basically flag and not let it go through. That to me makes sense, to be honest. Streaming your own song 1,000 times or even more is a drain on the royalty pool and is basically taking money away from other legit artists, no matter whether you're doing it from your first to your 1,000th stream or you're doing it from your 100,000th to your 101,000th stream. It doesn't matter. Manipulating your streams at any size is a drag on the royalty pool. And that's just not something I stand for. I think streams should be earned with real and engaged fans that really interact with your music. Now, but even though I'm not a big fan of this new cap on royalty payouts, if you were to ask me, John, all right, so what does it mean? Are you going to take your music off of Spotify because of this? The answer is no, I will not. And I want to explain why I'm not going to do this. Ultimately, I think there's still a massive net benefit to having my music on Spotify. And to show this and illustrate that, I'm going to hop over into my Spotify for Artists. Over the last 12 months, and it's now November, right? So over the last 12 months, I released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this was November, 11 releases. Every release is with 2 songs. So I released 22 songs over the last 12 months. So at a max, right, if I didn't hit 1,000 streams with any of these songs, Spotify would have essentially demonetized 22,000 streams. So I would have lost the money of 22,000 streams over the last year. And so the question now is, if this is what I've taken as an investment, what kind of benefits did I get from it on the other side? And in order to do this, I have my audience tab open here. And I wanted to see the streams that I'm getting purely from Spotify without me doing anything. So you can see over the last 12 months here, I got over 1.4 million streams. And if I go to sources of streams here and I say, okay, just show me editorial playlists, right? Spotify does that for me. I don't do anything in order to get on these editorial playlists. Algorithmic playlists, again, Spotify gifts me those streams. Personalized editorial playlists, radio and autoplay. How many streams did I get? And it shows up here at the bottom. And if I add up these numbers here, it looks like it's coming out to roughly 420,000 streams. And so if Spotify gave me for free about 420,000 streams, even if they demonetized about 20,000 streams on my songs, I would have still have a net benefit of 400,000 streams that I wouldn't have if I didn't have my music on Spotify. And so it is for that very reason that I'm not considering removing my music from Spotify or publishing less music to Spotify. The net benefit, the net gain, the number of streams that Spotify gives me through algorithmic playlists and editorial playlists and radio is just too big and makes this such a valuable platform. But that said, there might be some ways in which I'm going to change the behavior of my music releases on Spotify. Number one, I will consider not duplicating tracks on my individual releases. And here's what I mean by this. If I go back to my releases tab, you can see that I release singles, but every single has 2 versions of the same song on it. There's a short version and there's an extended version. I do this because I make electronic dance music, make house music. And so with this kind of music, the benefit of a shorter version is that it plays great on Spotify algorithmic playlists and radio and for music promotion. But for DJs who want to maybe play those songs in clubs or podcasts, you really need an extended version which DJs can mix. And so far, I've been putting out both versions of the track on the same release. But that also means that I'm cannibalizing those listeners. Some listeners might listen to the short version. Some listeners might only listen to the long version. And because I'm making it 2 tracks, I now have to hit 1,000 streams on each of those. If I only put up one version of the song, all of these listeners that wanted to check out my new song, they would have to use the one version that is available, therefore putting me across the 1,000 streams mark a lot quicker. Second, I can see myself staying away from putting out music right at the end of a month when I think I might not have a possibility to reach 1,000 streams before that end of the month. Now, to be honest, with Release Radar and the size of an audience that I've been lucky to build up on Spotify, and because I'm using Hyped ad automation that allows me to put new ad campaigns out right the moment I drop a new song, most of my releases hit 1,000 streams within a matter of 24 to 48 hours. So I know I can get there within a short period of time. But if I have a song coming where maybe I try to do different with the promotion or where I do not want to promote it for some reason, I'll probably be looking towards putting these songs out more towards the beginning of a month in order to give me more lead time to hit that 1,000 streams threshold. Well, that's a tongue twister in that first month, right? So I'm not losing any streams that wouldn't be monetizable. And then last but not least, I am concerned about the new fraud rules that Spotify has put out. We didn't spend that much time on this video here, but Spotify also announced that they will go after songs, the artists, and the distributors where they detect a certain percentage of fraudulent streams on those tracks. And while generally I wholeheartedly agree with cutting down on fraudulent streams, right now it's entirely unclear about how Spotify is going to make sure that you are actually the bad guy. So for example, let's say I pay for a service to get me on playlists. I do playlist promotion, right? And my music ends up on some playlists. And all of a sudden, it turns out that one of these playlists is using fraudulent streams. And now I get hit with a fine, but I didn't buy fraudulent streams. I didn't buy bots. No, it's somebody else who did it. Somebody else broke the rules without me knowing about it, but I'm the one suffering from the results. Or let's say I work with a third-party promoter, somebody I pay a fee to promote my music for me, and they go out and they get some fraudulent streams for the song. Again, I didn't sign up for this, but somebody else was the bad guy, but I'm the one who has to live with the consequences. I'm getting hit with the penalties. And so what that means is that I'm even more bullish now than ever about self-promoting my music, where I know exactly what is going on. And I know this sounds self-promotional, but this is exactly what the mission of Hyped It has been forever, right? To make music promotion as simple and as easy for independent music artists like us, where it feels like you have somebody else do all the heavy lifting for you, but it's a software that does it. And that's why I love the ad automation so much that's built into Hyped It, where I can now launch these Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns in literally just seconds. And I get the benefit as if I had a promoter pushing my music 24/7, but because all of it is done in my own artist's ad account, right? And it's not a third party that does some things and I don't know what's going on, because everything is visible now in my own account. I know there is no bad stuff there. I know it's all clean. And so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use the ad automation. I'm going to continue to use social media, which is perfectly clean, and of course, email. And I'm going to stay away from third-party promotion where I really don't know what's in it. And so there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Spotify's new monetization rules and how I think it will affect behavior and how I'm thinking now about it changing my behavior of how I'm putting music onto Spotify. And with this said, I hope you liked this video. And if you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like and the bell icon below so you can get more videos like this on YouTube about how to get more listeners, more streams, and more fans on Spotify. And if you want to learn more about the software and the system that I use in order to make sure that all of my songs hit 1,000 streams and more as quickly as possible, and also crack Discover Weekly, Release Radar, and Spotify Radio, then check out this quick clip coming up right here. Want to get your music heard on Spotify with AI? I just launched a brand new video training program called the Spotify Growth Switch, where I show you how to start growing real listeners, real fans, and real streams on Spotify in less than 10 minutes using software and AI. I've used the Spotify Growth Switch system to now grow my music to over 7 million streams and tens of thousands of monthly listeners on Spotify. This works for any music genre. It gets you real fans and listeners super fast, and it's extremely easy to set up, literally just like flipping a spotlight switch for your music. Despite using AI, you don't need to know nothing about tech stuff in order to be successful with this. I've had the tremendous privilege of helping multiple tens of thousands of music artists grow their music on Spotify, many of which have grown to much larger numbers, lots more listeners, lots more streams than I have using the systems that I've taught. Makes me so proud of their success. And so if you want to get more real listeners, real fans, and real streams for your music fast using state-of-the-art software and AI, then click the link below this video and check out the Spotify Growth Switch. I can't wait to help you grow your music on Spotify, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside.